Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Broku72, and today I have a very interesting video planned, and that is talking about the Norse gods and the Tournament of Power. How would they fare? Could they win? Would they lose? Would they be destroyed? Would they be dominant? How would they do? And so, as a huge fan of Norse mythology, I wanted to create this video and talk about these gods, how strong they are, their powers, their abilities, how they would fare as a team. And so this video, I'm using multiple sources of Norse mythology. If you don't know, Norse mythology is not like the Christian religion. It's not codified. There's not a canon. There are just translations of Christianized works. There are stories passed down which are more credible, blah 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 blah. So just because what I say does not mean that's fact about Norse mythology. That does not mean that there's differing sources. There are different scholars who disagree about what happens in the mythology, what has happened. I'm gonna go over what sources I've used. I'm using the Poetic and Prose Edda that is translated by Jackson Crawford. I'm using the book The Viking Spirit by Daniel McCoy, and I'm using the Ásatru Edda from the Norrena Society. Now, the Poetic and Prose Edda and the Viking Spirit are pretty much just pure scholarly works of Norse mythology, while the Ásatru Edda is mainly scholarly work, but including family tales that have been passed down from generations within the Ásatru Edda to change it up a little bit. So it's kind of, with the Ásatru Edda, it could be true, it could be wrong, it's hard to say. It is, family stories passed down for hundreds, if not thousands of years of the tales of their religion, of their mythology. So yeah, this is another crossover of Norse mythology and Dragon Ball. Two of some of my favorite things to read or watch, just things that I love to enjoy. Now, at first I was going to do a video on the Frieza force from the Namek Saga invading Asgard, and how the gods could fight it off. How would they fare? But then I realized there are actually a handful of Norse gods who could easily solo the Frieza force, including Frieza himself. So that really took all the interest and nuance out of it. But I noticed by the time of the Tournament of Power, the characters in Dragon Ball are much, much stronger. So I thought I would create a team of some of the strongest Norse gods and see how they would do in this tournament. So I was able to think of an actual reason for the Norse gods participating in this tournament. If the Norse pantheon wins the Tournament of Power, they get a wish from the Super Dragon Ball. Now, an avid reader of Norse mythology could probably predict what they would use this wish for, right? Something that the Norse gods, and especially Odin, constantly try and prevent: Ragnarok. They would use this wish to stop and prevent Ragnarok. So it's not much of a risk here for the Norse gods. Either die on Ragnarok, or be erased in the Tournament of Power, or win the Tournament of Power and then prevent Ragnarok. It's a no-brainer to enter this fight. Now, some housekeeping issues for the Norse gods. At least some are known for their amazing weapon. Because of the vagueness of the Norse stories, it'd be almost impossible to power scale them in their stories without their weapons. And since Batara earrings and other things were allowed in this tournament, like other rule breaks, the two Zenos allow the Norse gods to use their weapons, not only out of sheer respect for their pantheon, but as well as the Xenos being excited to see weapons enchanted with dwarven magic, like the mighty Mjolnir. So let's go over this godly team, beginning with the most obvious choice, Odin the Allfather. Odin will be accompanied by his sons, Thor, Balder, Tyr, Vidar, and Vali, and he'll also be accompanied by his blood brother, Loki. Yeah, in Norse mythology, Loki and Odin are blood brothers, not Thor and Loki. Odin will also have his wife Freya, a Vanir god, and her brother Frey. And then we will cap the team off with Thor's son Magni, the god of strength. Now I'm going to break down these gods and their powers, and I'm going to start with the weaker ones and then build up to the more strong ones. And probably one of the physically and overall weakest gods of the Norse pantheon is Loki, the god of mischief, at least according to his feats in the mythology. Loki is also a god of fire and can create and manipulate it. He is responsible for all the earthquakes in Midgard, as every time poison drops in his eyes, his screams cause the earth to shake. And we don't have any hardline attack potency, durability, or speed feats besides this because, well, it's hard to scale off of a scream how strong he would be. But seeing as Loki is a shapeshifter, he can transform into species that he has never seen before, and can take the properties of these species as his own while in that form. Like when Loki transformed into a falcon in the myths, he was able to fly away at the speed a falcon flies. That means Saiyans, Namekians, Yardratians, and more are all fair game for Loki to shapeshift into, which he could then adopt their levels of speed and power. That doesn't mean he can just turn into Jiren. He could turn into Jiren's species though. Loki can also create illusions and become invisible. While Loki isn't near as strong or as fast as most of the fighters in the Tournament of Power, his other abilities will make him a huge asset to the Norse pantheon in this endeavor, as you'll be able to sneak into other teams and destroy them or their plans from the inside. Next, we're going to be talking about both Vali and Vidar. Both are gods of vengeance. Vidar avenging his father Odin by slaying Fenrir on Ragnarok. The other, Vali, by slaying his brother Hoder for accidentally slaying his brother Balder. Vidar and Vali should be able to scale similarly to each other, which is why I'm putting them close in power to each other. Vidar was able to slay Fenrir, whom Fenrir was able to swallow the sun, or in some myths, one of Fenrir's sons swallowed the sun. But since Fenrir is stronger than his sons, either way, Fenrir is at least star level in terms of attack potency and durability. And seeing as he could quickly travel from the sun to Asgard, gives him at least faster than light speeds, but could also easily make him in the massively faster than light plus ranges of speed. And since Vidar was able to battle and kill Fenrir, that means we can say at a low ball, he has star level attack potency and durability, as well as having faster than light combat speeds. Since Vali is his brother and has killed a god, we will give him these same stats. Next is Balder. He's the god of beauty and light. He has no attack potency feats in the sagas, but since he's a son of Odin, we can at least give him attack potency relative to that of Vali and Vidar, which is star level. Still nothing much for Dragon Ball Z standards, let alone Dragon Ball Super Tournament of Power standard. But Balder is at least faster than light, as since he is the god of light and controls that, and the base of his powers is light, he emits light in the sagas. It makes sense that he's at least light speed, but he's probably faster since his brothers are also faster. Balder's main addition to this battle is that he can't take any damage. He'd be the tank of the Norse pantheon. Unless if somehow the other team has a single tree that Freya didn't bless him with, then they're not going to be able to damage him. Now if you want to argue that technically Balder should be able to be hurt because Freya only used that spell in the Norse mythology, that means that people that aren't from the Norse mythology can hurt him, but since Freya's on this team, she could just alter the spell so that nobody could hurt him. So while Balder doesn't have great attack potency feats, doesn't have great speed feats comparably, but since he can't take any damage, he can be the tank of this team. Next, I'm going to go with Tyr. We know nothing of his feats in the Norse myth, as he is hardly shown to do much fighting, despite him actually being a god of war. Since he is a son of Odin, in some of the myths, and is supposedly one of the strongest sons, we can also put him at star level and faster than light. But one of Tyr's abilities, as being the god of war, is victory manipulation. Yes, as the god of war, he has the ability to manipulate battles to pick victors. Now this is not an absolute power. I don't know if we should treat this as an absolute power, as that he could just make it so that Universe Norse can win this tournament. Because Tyr's powers are showed as he manipulates the war, like he gives his favor of who wins. That doesn't mean they always win. But we will weigh in Tyr's victory manipulation abilities on this battle, as they will help the Norse pantheon. Next, I'm going to go with Frey, who is at least solar system level, because when he fought Surtur on Ragnarok, he killed Surtur and Surtur killed him, so they were equal. Surtur was strong enough to destroy all of the Norse worlds, so basically all of the 9 realms and the world tree were destroyed by Surtur and his fire. So that puts him at least solar system, but the thing with the Norse pantheon is it pretty much treats Midgard as the basic universe, as in, you know, there are stars in the sky and the Norse pantheon stretches, so it's actually probably more likely to say that Surtur was universal level because he was able to destroy all of the universe. All of the stars in the sky were destroyed. And if Surtur can destroy the universe in quick amount of times, that means we can make Frey as massively faster than light plus. As Ragnarok happens in the midst of a battle. It's not a year-long or years-long battle. It happens in a short time. Maybe at absolute max, a few days. So, Surtur is universe level and massively faster than light plus without his sword. And with his sword, in the myth it says if he had a sword, he easily would have killed Surtur and he would have survived. So, with his sword, he'd be even faster and he would have even higher attack potency. Universe plus. Next is probably your favorite, and that is Thor, the god of thunder. Now, he has abilities like being able to control storms, control the sun, control lightning, and he has feats in the mythology that is very, very strong, where he once threw a Jotun's toe so far and fast that it became a star. And people say, oh, well, if he was able to throw a Jotun's toe, that means that stars are smaller in the Norse pantheon, but Thor did that in Jotunheim. We don't know how big Jotunheim is, so it's not out of context to say that Jotun's toe was the size of a star, and Thor killed a solar system sized being, and then its toe was star sized. You don't have to just say that it was the size of a building and then it became a star. And also, even if threw it that far away, it's still, and either way, he killed the Jotun, its toe was the size of a star, it became a star, and he threw it that far away, which means he has massively faster than light plus levels of attacks. Also, in the myths, when he went fishing for Jormungandr, and he got Jormungandr on the line, he also did a playful bop on the Jormungandr's head, on the World Serpent's head, and this caused all of the realms to violently shake. All of Midgard, all of Asgard, all of Jotunheim, and the thing with that is that the Norse pantheon is stated to be an infinite-sized universe. There are also Hel, Valhalla, and Folkvanger. They're all infinite-sized realms within other realms. So Thor shook infinity, multiple infinity. So Thor has infinite 3D powers, and he'd be easily massively faster than light plus, because at least his attack speed would be. And he would have to be easily faster than light because of his brothers through scaling. Thor is stronger than it. And there's actually an argument to be made for Thor to have infinite speed, but I have to hold that until we get to the Allfather, Odin, because that argument has to involve Odin. But Thor has Mjolnir, which pretty much will kill anything he hits with it. And in fact, it kind of brings up a no limits fallacy, is that Thor has literally killed everything that he's hit with the hammer that he's done a serious hit with. So does that mean that he'll kill Jiren? We can't really say that. It'd be kind of a no limits fallacy. Also, Thor has Messenjord, which he doesn't really use in the mythology very much. This belt, it's a magical belt. It doubles his physical strength and it doubles his magic power when he uses it. So basically, whatever feats he has in the mythology, we can double or quadruple it based on him having the belt Messenjord in this battle. Now, next, I'm going to get into Odin. He is not the next in terms of power. He is the most powerful being in Norse mythology. But I'm going to go with him because then I can explain other people's powers if I explain Odin. So Odin is the god of many things in Norse mythology. God of poetry, god of war, god of wisdom. And as a young man, alongside his brothers Vili and Ve, he killed the primordial being, primordial Jotun, Ymir. And alongside his brothers, he created 7 of the 9 realms with Ymir's corpse. Now, the thing with this is, it is stated they created the stars with Ymir. That means that, the Norse realms, the 9 realms, are not just a solar system in size. They are a universe in size. So, Odin, alongside his brothers Vili and Ve, killed a universal-sized being and then created the universe with that corpse. Now, this is a very young Odin. This is before he got to his epitome of power. This is before he learned cedar magic. This is before he learned magic from Freya. This is before he drank from the well of knowledge. This is before he sacrificed himself to learn all the runes. This is before he learned his 18 spells. And he is a universal level being. And the fact that he fought a universal sized being means that he probably has to be massively faster than light plus in order to fight said being. Also, something very crazy in terms of power is that Odin created time for man. This means Odin might be a 4-dimensional being, or at least have 4-dimensional powers. That means Odin would have infinite speed, as well as he'd be able to not only destroy a universe, but its time-space. 4-dimensional power is infinitely more powerful than 3-dimensional power. So, even Thor being infinite 3D, comparing that to Odin's 4D, Odin would be infinitely more powerful than him. But since Odin is not infinitely more powerful than Thor, that means that Thor should also scale to Odin. It's very heavily debated who's the strongest god in Norse mythology. Is it Thor? Is it Odin? And since it's a debate, we'd have to put Thor at 40 as well, which means that Thor, with 40 powers, is universal and also has infinite speed. Where Odin really comes in clutch here is with his magic spells. He has 18, 17 of which we know. His 18th is the one we don't know. It's his most powerful spell, but it sucks that we don't know because we can't technically use it if we don't. His first spell is based around help. It cures sadness and helps in lawsuits. The second spell is a healing spell. The third spell, it weakens his enemies. He cannot take damage from his enemies if he uses this spell. Number 4, he can break any lock or prison or bind that has him trapped. Number 5, he can control all weapons or attacks of war. They can never be too fast for him. He can perceive all attacks and can stop them as long as he can physically see them, as long as they're not blocked by something. At 6 is no spells work on Odin. If they attack him with a spell, it will revert to the attacker. And Odin can create his own curses. Number 7, he can manipulate and control fire and also prevent the death and injury of people who are currently about to die. And number 8, he can stop battles by controlling the mind of the others to broker peace. Number 9, he can manipulate the weather and manipulate the ocean. Number 10, he has spells that affect the mind that can cause victim to go insane or go into a catatonic state. His 11th spell makes it so that his allies cannot be harmed and they will return from battle victorious unharmed. Number 12, he can reanimate or resurrect people. 13, can make people immortal to anything but sickness or old age. Number 14 is a spell that grants wisdom. Number 15 is it grants the powers of gods or gives additional power boosts to the people he chooses and then gives them the courage of the elves. At number 16, he can make any woman fall in love with him. At 17, it's pretty much the same. His 18th is what we don't know, but it's his most powerful spell. Odin has the spear Gungnir, which is made by dwarves. It'll hit the target no matter what, although we don't know how strong Gungnir itself is. And the lore of the Berserkers and the Ulfhinders, these are warriors of the Norse world, not only of the actual real world, like these warriors actually existed, but they are also spoken about in the Norse mythology. In the mythology, Odin makes these Berserkers and Ulfhinders stronger, but makes him insane. So Odin can not only use the spell to make his allies basically unable to take harm, but also can make them stronger, and although this would put them in a state where they might kill people or kill each other, he can then use his other spell to calm them down. So Odin can power up all of his allies. Now next I'm going to talk about Magni. He is the god of strength, the son of Thor. Now, we never see him do much in the myths because Ragnarok happens before he can really do much, but as a 3-day-old baby, he was already physically stronger than Thor. So what I'm going to do for this video is just assume that a fully grown Magni would be equal to Thor in battle. So we have Magni who would be 40 and also have infinite speed. And next is Freya. Freya is somebody in the Norse myths who is constantly downplayed, and I don't know why. She is a witch and of the Vanir tribe pretty much, and she is a phenomenal mage. Basically, probably better than Odin with magic, but she doesn't have that base power or base physical strength that Odin has, nor the knowledge of Odin. Now, if you don't know, there are 2 tribes of gods in the Norse mythology, the Aesir, which is Odin, Thor, Balder, and then there's the Vanir, which is Freya, Frey, and other gods. The Vanir, their origins are kind of hard to pin down, like in the Norse mythology, but basically the Aesir and the Vanir had fought a war before, and the Aesir not only outnumbered the Vanir, but they also were more powerful on average. And yet, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Freya put the team on her back, and it was basically a stalemate war. Now imagine that. The Aesir had Thor and Odin and the other Aesir, and they outnumbered the Vanir. But Freya herself made it an even battle, pretty much. So I'm going to put her as not an equivalent to Odin, but up near Odin, because what happened was Odin and Freya eventually got married, and Freya taught Odin the magic. So the Odin that was fighting the Vanir tribe is a weaker Odin. The fact that she was able to swap hands with Odin and put the Vanir tribe on her back should put her in probably the 4D category as well, and also have crazy spells. Now, it's actually a pretty weird debate of how this would work. And honestly, in my opinion, it all comes down to if you believe that Odin's spells would work on the top tiers like Jiren, Topo, and the other top tiers. Just because Odin, Thor, and Magni, and probably Freya are in that 4D realm of power, like Goku and Jiren, that doesn't mean they are equals. As my friend Bluestone said, just because both an elephant and a person are three-dimensional beings doesn't mean they have equal power. So it really kind of depends. If you agree that Odin's spells work, then again, let's go over that. Well, first off, he can heal him or anybody on his team. If his spell works, he can weaken all of his enemies so that he won't take damage from them. He can control all weapons or attacks of war, and he can perceive all attacks no matter the speed. He can use mind manipulation to make people crazy or go insane. He can control the minds of others to broker peace, which means he could potentially go against the other teams and make them not want to fight in the tournament of power, or making them suppress themselves in power so that Odin and the Norse gods can win. Odin's spell makes it so his allies can't be harmed, and they will return from battle victorious. Just remember, let's go over that spell. Allies can't be harmed, and they will return from battle victorious. That means that not only should his allies, his other gods, be impervious, but they also should be victorious. Odin is a god of war, and therefore, he could have battle or victory manipulation like Tyr does. He can also make his fellow allies stronger. So if his spells work, then the Norse gods win. If they don't work, then they lose, because they only have a few people that are even considered close to the top tier. So yeah, I think that this sort of scenario really hinges on Odin and his spells working. If they work, they win. If they don't work, they lose. And they lose because Jiren is probably on that very high realm of four-dimensional power, that he is probably so much faster than any of the Norse gods and so much more powerful. And we can only assume that Odin is low-level four-dimensional power because he only destroyed and created one universal time space. He didn't do that to multiple, unless if you want to assume that each of the 9 realms are their own time space, which we don't necessarily know. But that's what I am saying for this video. If Odin's spells work on Jiren in the top tiers, they win. If they don't work, then they lose and probably get absolutely slaughtered. In fact, if the spells don't work, I wouldn't be surprised if Jiren soloed the Norse pantheon. If they do work though, they would probably dominate this tournament. Just remember, they wouldn't be able to take damage, they'd be stronger and faster, and Odin's spell would guarantee victory. So that's how magic can really change things. Let me know what your thoughts on this video, guys. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like, subscribe, and also turn on notifications. Hope you guys all have an amazing day. Peace out.